You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. I am Chad Holmes, joined again by former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress. Coming up, we will be talking about what's going on in high school basketball and hockey as we get closer and closer to the start of the playoffs. We will have a pair of guests again tonight. Our coach guest coming up at 6:25 from Stratford High School, their head boys basketball coach, Kurt Schmidt. And then our student athlete guest coming up at 7:06 tonight from Wausau West, their outstanding senior boys basketball standout, Griffin Lange. So that's all coming up here in the next 2 hours. Welcome back, Jeff Gress.
It's good to be here. I thought you were going to say former Bucks fan after we picked up Kyle Kuzma. I mean, anyway, that's not an NBA show. No, I got it.
I know.
Grinding my gears. Go ahead.
I know. Before we start talking about what's going on in boys basketball, I have a question. We usually would do this at the end, but why not throw it at the start for once? Let's change it up.
Sounds good.
I was looking at, I was getting all the stuff together, and I was looking, and there's 3 teams in our area that we follow, the conferences, that are undefeated right now. You got Wittenberg-Burnham in girls basketball, Bondwell in boys basketball, and Stevens Point in hockey. How would you feel going into the playoffs undefeated?
It's a tough. To get to that point, you've got to play. You're playing consistently, and your kids got to be executing. And I would say 2 things have happened. Either you've stayed extremely healthy in terms of being pretty injury-free and pretty sickness-free, but if you have had teams with a significant injury, or so, you've also battled through it. So I would say I would take it because you're going in. I know you're always going in with a target on your back when you have that type of record, and everybody wants to say, we beat the undefeated team.
Right.
But your program and things got to be rolling. That means, at that type of mark, practices are going to be great. Kids have got to be just knocking themselves out. There's got to be this high feeling of expectations, and I take it. I mean, it's hard to do.
Yes.
You're going to have it's high school. There's letdowns. Things happen. People don't perform. Miscues happen. It can be a change of a simple night where one person's off. It's just so simple to make that mistake. So I would take it. But obviously, the target's on your back.
Let's talk about boys basketball. Wisconsin Valley Conference. Marshfield undefeated in league, 8-0, 11-5 overall. Wausau West having a terrific season, 6-2 in the conference, 14-4 overall. Stevens Point and Wausau East are 4-3 in the conference. Panthers 10-7 overall. Lumberjacks 14-3. DC Everest 3-5 in the conference, 9-9 overall. Merrill 1-6 in league, 8-9 overall. Rapids still looking for that first win, 0-7 in the conference, 0-15 overall. Looking at some of the big matchups, and Friday night was a big conference night. You had Marshfield in a tight one in Marshfield, knocking off Wausau East 50-45. Brooks Hinson 18 for Marshfield. Jesse Knapp-Gezik 13 for the Lumberjacks. Also another tight one on Friday. Stevens Point down by 4 at halftime, came back and defeated DC Everest 48-44. Jaden Owie had 15 points for Stevens Point. Casey Studeman and Kate Felch 11 for the Evergreens. And Wausau West continued their winning ways. They had a massive game on Thursday, non-conference, 89-30. That's you don't see West usually score 89 points, but Jackson Riley had a huge night. Out of nowhere, Jackson Riley has not come anywhere close to 31 points in a game, but he was great from beyond the three-point arc. Karji Cooper 15, Griffin Lange 14, and then back-to-backs. They went to Rapids, beat the Red Raiders 58-29, Griffin Lange 13, Bennett Matson 11. And then last night, Everest with a good comeback win against Mosinee. Mosinee led 41-29 at halftime, 58 points for the Evergreens in the second half. They beat Mosinee 87-80. Wausau East last night in a non-conference game beat Lakeland 82-71. Jaden Garrett, 29 points in that game. And West, another win. Good week for the Warriors, 56-47 against Rhinelander. But let's start with the conference games on Friday. Some really interesting games.
Yeah, I watched, saw a little bit of the East Marshfield game, watching it on TV on Friday night, and it was evenly matched, good battle, and then you get some inside sights when you see some of the coaches at the weekend youth tournaments. You hear who's sick because you don't know that watching it because those kids go out there and they're battling, and East had some sickness they were battling, and so. It was a great game. Every time Marshfield looked like they were, Marshfield plays all these, they kind of play the style they want. They slow it down this year, it seems, a little bit when they could take off and run a lot. And, you got to cater to that and overcome that and not get lost in that a little bit. And I thought every time Marshfield looked like they might get East lulled into that, East would make a run and come back. And then, something would happen. A foul that you didn't want to happen or a turnover, and then Marshfield would keep East at bay a little bit. But it was a tight game down the stretch. It came down to a couple tough calls, and Marshfield pulled that one out and keeps that conference lead with East, still having a great season and some nice wins along the road here too. I thought, West just continues to go, 3 in a row. They should beat Lakeland. They beat Rapids, though. Rapids is a tricky team whenever I talk to a Valley coach. They're like, they got a lot of guys back. We're not quite sure why they're not getting over the hump, but we definitely don't want it to happen to us. So there's this probably nervousness, this little bit of anxiety going in those games that we've got to be at our peak performance because they still talk about how the Rapids kids are playing hard. They're still trying to dig themselves out of that 0 mark in the win column. And it's always got to be fun when I got to imagine for Thanksgiving and Christmas when you go and play coach against your brother and you win that game. That gets some talk for the year.
It's kind of turned recently because Derek was beating Nate for a while, but the last couple of years it's been Nate turning the tables.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So always good wins when those stuffs come around.
And it's also good when both teams are doing well during the season, I imagine, too.
Exactly. That helps out a lot. I thought Spash had a quality win over at Everest to come back from down. That's not you talk about it all the time. That's not an easy place to play. Big gym, a lot of noise. They bring a pretty good crowd most of the time. So for Everest, still not a bad week. No. Still getting their feet down. Plays Spash to within 4. Turn around, get a nice win against a good Mosinee team Tuesday night. So I think a lot of good things in this conference is still shaken up. I mean, we're starting to see a little separation now because it's going to be harder and harder as games disappear to overcome some of these margins to get yourself back in there. But I think all these teams have a lot of strength and they're going to have a lot of excitement. And even when you look at some of these overall records, 11-5 with Marshfield, 14-4 with West. Spash is 10-7, but still dangerous. East 14-3. I mean, those are good. And Everest is just at 500, but they're a team that can't be overlooked for the strength that's going to come around when they're completely healthy.
Exactly right. Then you have the GNC. Talk about a tight race. You got Medford 6-2, 10-8 overall. Rhinelander 6-2, 11-5 overall. Mosinee 5-2, 13-6 overall. Pines 4-4, 10-8. Then Antigo and Lakeland 3-5 in the conference. Antigo 9-9. Lakeland 7-11. Tomahawk 0-7 in conference, 4-13 overall. Mosinee got a big win, a tight win against Medford Friday night, 62-59. Again, a comeback win. Mosinee was down by 7 at halftime. Braden Reinke, boy, he's a sophomore.
Yeah. He
had 28-16 again on Friday. Last night, even in that loss against Everest, 30 points. I mean, Treve Stoffel, 18-10. Nick Krause had 16 for Medford, but a huge win. Rhinelander got a good win in conference against Pines, 56-38 Friday. Lakeland beat Antigo, and actually I was a little surprised by that one. Lakeland had been struggling a bit, but they beat Antigo 68-55. Last night, Medford had a game against Altoona. They won 56-52, but the conference games, and really, it's going to go right down to the nub.
Well, and there's only so much stuff you can pick up when you're trying to watch all these games or find stuff. So I saw the Medford Mosinee one on the news. I saw the highlights, and they talked about Medford's up by this, that. I think at some point Medford may have been up to 18 to 20 points. At some point is the way the news announcer made it sound. And so for Mosinee to come back and get that win over the top team at the time, it was a big win, and it shakes it up.
It was
again.
A must win.
Yeah, because it shakes it up again, because now all those top 3 teams have 2 losses. And then Rhinelander, I thought a quality win versus Pines to almost get it to 20 points. That's a big win. And then, for Mosinee, good comeback against Medford, very good Medford team. And I keep forgetting that Reinke, as I'm saying that right. Okay, we'll go with Reinke. Either way, though, I've never heard him until this season. I talked to one of the Mosinee parents, and he keeps putting up the numbers he is. He's not the little best-kept secret we used to have here because he came out as sophomore. I have the coaches and people within the program in the city knew about him, but he's really showing up in the scoring part. And to hear that he's only a sophomore, that's a nice job by what he's doing.
Keep thinking to get him on the show. He's too young for us.
Yeah.
Because we have
there's a laundry list of
there's so many kids we want to get on, and especially we will stick with the juniors and seniors, and mostly seniors on the program. If people are kind of wondering why somebody is on and somebody's not, and we try to do the best we can.
And that Antigo-Lakeland game did surprise me too, because Antigo has been playing well as of late and kind of coming around, looking like they might turn the corner and to be a little bit more upper echelon in that conference, and Lakeland has been struggling a little bit.
Absolutely. Merriwood South, it's like it always is. Auburndale 10-1 in the conference, 16-1 overall. Stratford 9-2, 15-2. Marathon 8-3, 11-6. Assumption and Edgar 5-6 in the conference, 6-13 for Assumption, 7-10 for Edgar. Newman 2-9 in conference, 4-13 overall. Looking at some of the action last night was a big conference game night where you had the Merriwood South going head to head. Auburndale was able to avenge their only loss. We talked about this last week with Coach Weinfurter, and they did the job. 69-51 against Assumption last night. JT Schlafer 26 for the Royals, but Keegan MP 20 and 4 Auburndale players in double figures. Obviously, great balance for Auburndale.
Tough to guard. You got you usually know who the one guy is you want to keep in check. And Rob is a really good point guard on Auburndale. Kid distributes well. He hits the shots. He's that floor general you want out there. So that's one of the kids you're going after. And then they have 3 more that are able to ante up some points. That's a big deal, which makes Auburndale dangerous. And I think it was a big deal. Coach Weinfurter said we don't want to stub our toe. Assumption is the team we stubbed our toe against, and they pop back. And
actually,
get a nice
real fast. I was a little surprised. In the previous game against Amherst on Friday, they struggled. It was a tie game at halftime. They pulled away to win 51-40, and you said Blake Robb 18 points in that game. So again, as I think what you said earlier, any night, sometimes and maybe it's going to take a little bit more to get going. Other nights you're just going to have it.
Yeah, and those are the nights where I think they learn to play as a team. So when you get that undefeated record, you're figuring all that out, or one loss in the case of Auburndale. You're able to figure it out. And those are the beauty of what makes these teams dangerous or makes a team good at the end of the day is who steps up when somebody else can't. You got to have those components. I thought, Stratford did what they were supposed to do, and they won against Edgar was that Friday?
Yeah, no, last night, 65-47, Stratford over Edgar. Spindler 20, Brusewitz 13 for Stratford.
Yeah, so that's a good win to keep that mark at 15-2, 9-2 overall, and continue the chase and the hunt of that.
And also last night, Marathon back on the winning track, defeating Newman 68-40, a game that we had right here on 98.9 WXCO. True Thurs 15 points, Ian Shuda 13 for Marathon, Quincy Fender 18, Lucas Piffner 12 for the Cards. Marathon 11-6 overall, 8-3 in the conference. It feels like a down year. It's not a down year. I mean, it's still a very good year, but they've been so good recently, and yet they're just right behind Auburndale, Stratford. It feels like they're further behind, but they're still right there.
Yeah, it's a good. Again, like you said, a good season. They have good marks in both their conference and their non-conference games, and they continue to play well. Marathon's going to do what they always do with their tradition. They have their style, they have their discipline. Same coaches. Everybody knows how that program works in terms of what they're able to bring to the table when they take the court each night. And they're a team too. We talked about it. They're going to continue to get better, even with the short amount of season we have left. And they're going to be a team a team like you're going to say, even though it's not the top tier that they had last year, it's still a team could be difficult at playoff time.
I'm kind of curious about the 2 D5 teams when they get to the playoffs, because I think for both Assumption and Newman, the regular seasons have been a little bit disappointing. I think that going into the campaign with a kid like Schlafer for Assumption, and then with Quincy Fender and Lucas Piffner for the Cards, the thought is, hey, we got some really talented offensive performers, and we're going to be able to maybe pop up there and surprise. And Assumption did surprise Auburndale, but they're playing a lot of these D4 teams. There's still, I think, potential for those two schools to make a run once the playoffs begin.
That is the beauty of of being a D5 team in a conference with Division 4 teams. I think it, even when I coached it or what I've watched over the last couple of years, you get battle tested. So sometimes you're just trying to break even on your games. We're going to go 1-1 with Auburn. We're going to go 1-1 with Marathon. But guess what? When we get out of this, we've been tested. We've been pushed. We've been played this physicality that's in the Merriwood South with all these teams that are well coached and play their hearts out. And it's just a battle. And then we're going to get into some other teams. I think there's a difference when you get into some of those other teams that are playing D5 and then their conference is strictly D5. I think it builds a different element of toughness, both mentally and physically, that you can't recreate anywhere else other than playing through that conference schedule. So I think you're in a good place when you're a D5. I mean, look at Green Bay New Lutheran and all the runs they've made over the years. They're just in a good place playing against teams that have higher level conferences or schools in their conference.
Merriwood North, you got Rib Lake, first place, 9-2 in the conference, 12-5 overall. Phillips and Prentice, 6-5 in the conference each. Athens 3-8, Abbotsford 2-9, Shawamigan 1-10, and one of the big upsets in any of the games I think we're going to talk about here tonight was last night with Athens beating Phillips in Phillips. Athens was 2-13 going in. Phillips, second place in the conference, in Athens, and Phillips had won by 30 points over Washburn. They had beat Tomahawk by 30 plus points. Looked like Athens had played on Monday, losing to Colby by 13. Again, any particular night. That one really caught my eye.
Yeah, that was a big game. I mean, it's one you don't want to not get through, and Phillips unfortunately took that loss, which kind of changes things. It almost takes us to the point where to catch Rib Lake now is going to be much more difficult. Yeah. Based on look at Rib Lake. I've said this before that I've seen Abbey play. Rib Lake beat Abbey 70-51 on Tuesday. I think Rib Lake just took ownership. But again, that happens in the conference. We've seen coaches, players, everybody in there. They grow up playing each other throughout the youth leagues and everything. They know each other so well, and those things can happen. It can take a off shooting night or how many, I can't tell you the number of conversations where somebody's been sick and somebody's missing. It changes the complexity of that team and maybe brings a little bit extra to some other team. So, unfortunately for Phillips, a tough loss against Athens.
And CWC East, you got Bondwell. We said it earlier, undefeated, 18-0, 10-0 in the conference. Whitburn 9-1, 14-2. Iola Scandinavia third at 7-3 in the conference. Shiocton 6-4. Menominee Nation 4-6. Wyowega Fremont 2-8. Amherst Emmanuel 1-9. I will say that the age a coach number of years in a week award has to go to Whitburn, because this week they had 3 games. Whitburn on Thursday of last week beat Shiocton 64-62 in overtime. Then on Monday in a non-conference game, they beat Pacelli in overtime 73-71. And then last night, didn't go to overtime, but they beat Wyowega Fremont 69-68. You had Jet Rogowski with 26 on Thursday, 28 on Monday. I mean, to have a week like that, what does that say? Is that playing with fire? Is that
well, and to come out 3-0?
I know
you're 2-0 in the OTs. You battled the other one by 1 point. Again, just strengthens you for the run you want to make down these tight games, these adverse situations that are sometimes difficult to recreate in practice. I think go a long way, even if you don't win all those games. I think they go a long way in strengthening your program and strengthening your team for the run that you want to make as the season ends.
And finally, in the CWC North, Tigerton 6-0, Northland Lutheran and White Lake are 5-2. White Lake got a big win last night against Northland, 55-42. So Northland had a chance to kind of secure second, stay within the game of Tigerton. That's a tough loss.
It is, especially with Tigerton. I believe they were conference champs last year, and that now a little bit more to catch up. So especially when the team next year, you want to keep them at bay. But big win for White Lake.
We're going to take a quick timeout and then come back and have our coach guest for this week. A guy that, what was the record against Kurt Schmidt?
I don't know, too many to count, one way or the other, and it's probably not the one way I wanted, so he did a good job.
So we'll talk to Stratford boys basketball coach Kurt Schmidt coming up next here on the Big High School Sports Show, presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, it's a big one in Wisconsin Valley Conference hockey, as the Wausau West Warriors play host to the DC Everest Evergreen. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Wausau West Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing, and the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club. It's Wausau West hosting DC Everest in high school hockey Thursday night, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 on your home for Wausau West Sports, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Coming up a little later in the show at 7:06, it will be our student athlete guest for this week, Griffin, Lange, the senior from the Wausau West boys basketball team. But right now it's time for our coach guest for this week from the Stratford Tigers, 15-2 overall, 9-2 in the Merowith South. Very happy to welcome back to the program, Kurt Schmidt. Coach, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. 15 wins, 2 losses overall, 9-2 in the conference. Always have that that little bit of extra at the start of the season because your football team always seems to play so deep. How would you describe your season up to this point?
Well, it's been challenging trying to deal with a lot of those types of things before January. We've talked about this pretty regularly, I think, on the show, and dealing with other little things here and there. You know, we've had a couple players out now, have been out for the rest of the season, and one just had surgery, and he's out for the season. And so I've been pleased with some of the guys that have been playing a lot of JV who have had to step up and get more minutes at the varsity level. We've been still playing pretty well in spite of arguably losing our probably second most valuable player.
And Coach, I don't know if everybody, when you come and watch the games, you see the kids playing, if just as the spectators and stuff. I don't know if they always really understand the jigsaw puzzle that it is to put that back together. To sometimes just ask kids to step up, even though presumably you're already probably in your rotation playing your best players, and you have those expectations in a very competitive conference to hold these high standards, to finish strong, to get ready to probably see some of these same teams again in playoffs when you want to be playing your best ball. What does it take from the coaching angle to keep these guys ready to go? Like, how do you guys as coaches handle this? Because, until hearing you say that you've had a couple key injuries, and just from what I've watched just on paper, I wouldn't have known that. You just think you're going through with your best guys yet, which is a credit to you, your staff, and your program, your team. So what's kind of the mentality, and how do you have to work through that? What do you have to do to keep that train rolling the right way?
Well, I was listening to the end of your guys' previous bit you were doing, and you made the smart comment. And
we appreciate that.
Comment. No, I'm not meaning smart aleck. I'm talking about, you mentioned something about people don't always know when a kid, there's sicknesses that coaches got to deal with. There's weird stuff. Like, we had a kid sick yesterday, had to play through it. We played Edgar last night. I lost a player 2 weeks ago to a surgery. And at the beginning of the year, I lost a returner through an injury from the football season. And people don't get it, that it's a jigsaw puzzle. To answer your question, it's you think it would be easy. Just for example, last night, I'm juggling. Sometimes coaches have a numbering system. That they're trying to. A kid goes, hey, you're a 3, you're a 4, you're a 5. It just helps simplify spots. Well, whether you do a press breaker, okay, you're normally a guard, but on the press breaker, I want you a 4. Because we have an injury. So now now we can go 4 out one end, but on our press breaker we want, 2 bigs in a certain spot, okay? So now you can adjust offensively to you're missing a 4 or 5 man, but you turn the 4 into a guard on a 4-1 in offense. But if you do any type of a 2-post type thing, then it's different. But anyway, but to answer your question, yesterday we were running our little end of the game offense, 4 minutes to go with the lead. And sure enough, I thought it was simple enough to be able to do. And we had 2 kids that were looking at each other because I had a different personnel grouping at the end. And they looked at each other like, I've never run the post on Wisconsin 2. Have you? No, I haven't done it either. And I'm like, as coaches, you're like, oh, darn, but it's that, okay, so now we got to go to a spread. We got to go to our spread offense for the final 4 minutes where it's 4 guards and only 1 post, Right. So, answer your question, even blobs, like baseline out of bounce plays, you're mixing and matching, whereas before you had a sub that could go on for this spot. And so it's a challenge. But fortunately, kids have done a really, really good job of adjusting and other kids stepping up really big. Last night we had our guy come off the bench for us, a junior, who didn't play last year because of a football injury all year, Riley Spindler, who had 20 points for us. He really... Well, we needed something like that because Edgar's is a very competitive team and they play hard, and you got to bring your A game when you play them.
As a coach, those are the moments that must be extra special because going into a season, you probably have an idea that Drew Brusewitz is going to come on and put up great numbers, and a few of the other kids. When you have a kid that steps up, maybe because he was put into a situation because, as you said, injury and illness. As a coach, I imagine that says a lot about the process is working. That you talk about positive reinforcement, that sounds like as much as any that you could have.
Oh, absolutely. And you need unsung heroes to get through a season if you want to end up on top or pretty close on top at the end of the season. I look at an example when we played Auburndale. We did a very, very good job on their 3 top scorers. Well, their 4th scorer that kind of wasn't doing too much the previous 4 games had 18 points and drilled 5 threes on us. And then we barely lose the game. So a kid like that, you need that. You need an unsung hero, somebody that just, another team has the ability to take away a player or two or really, really cause problems. Other guys have to step up. Anytime you focus or concentrate on a player or two, it kind of puts a crack in your defense a little bit. And now, if the other players that don't normally step up don't step up, then you're going to do very well if you can slow the best players down. And that's generally the rule of thumb, is to make the other team play left-handed, metaphorically speaking. And when a team can play left-handed, and beat you, and then, hey, they tip your hat to them. More power to you.
And you've been obviously you've been at the helm for a while, and you've seen a lot of your teams come through with a lot of successes. Is the team you currently at, because there's still a lot of success there, and a lot of good things happening. What would be this team's? How would you define this team? What do you see that kind of stands out? That's their identity, or is it still within the program?
Well, I think it's still within the program. It's defense mentality. Defense has saved us. It's helped us. Early in the year, it was not good. I mean, trying to get the legs together and get in shape where you're not fumbling the ball on offense out of bounds, and your rotations are a little bit slower. But even the experience, I have a few young guys that play, and you can tell when guys that have played for me a full year, let's say as a junior, the next year, man, do they get things. Oh, man, they get it fast. They got it. But it's not complicated. I don't want to sound like a genius. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just reads and reactions to things. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
When something happens, how do you react to it? Are you able to recognize? Are you able to make a quick decision? Basketball is all about quick decisions. quick reactions. And now my younger guys are really getting that down. And once you get that down, you become better defensively. Now, we lost Alec Chapel, who is a very, very good defensive player and very versatile and a very good glue guy offensively. Well, now you got to figure out ways to replace that with maybe some athletes that aren't as quick, athletically, or, they don't move as well perhaps, or whatever it is. And so it creates a challenge. And I think right now the guys are doing pretty well with that.
And you're, obviously you look at the standings, one game behind Auburndale, to get back to that exact dead first place spot and finish the season out the way you want with a conference championship. What do you think this team has to do, or whether it's continue to do it or something you want them to improve on and you think you can overtake that top spot?
Well, we're improving our shooting right now. It's improving, but in order to beat them at the end, in order to finish on top, you have to shoot really, really well. You can't go cold. When we played Marathon the first time of the year, we shot 32%, I think, for the game. We were 11 for 26 from the free throw line. We were, I believe, 3 for 24 from the three-point line. I think it was our fourth or fifth game of the year. We were stone cold, wide open looks. Well, we just played them last week, and I thought we were repeating the same thing. First half, we didn't shoot well. We had great looks. But see, to answer your question, we're short. Auburndale has a 6'7", 6'8" kid that they can afford to play around the basket a lot because they'll put them on what they think is your worst shooter. And so then they dare you to shoot it outside. And it's hard to get good high percentage shots because last time we played them, we shot in the 30s, barely lost, but we probably had 5-6 shots that were blocked right back into our face. And then even ones that you get off and you miss, you're still thinking about the long arms, so you rush it. We had a chance at the end against Auburndale to tie the game. We had a layup, and we just flat out missed a point-blank layup. It's going to take you're going to have to shoot well outside because we're not going to get a lot of easy baskets when you have that a basket protector. We dealt with that with Marathon with Warren last year. You know how it is. If there's some height and they just hover around the basket, that's why some teams sit in a 2-3 zone and they put a 6'5", 6'8" kid in the middle of it. Well, you better, if you hit shots, then they got problems. But if you don't, then you got problems.
Again, we're talking to Kurt Schmidt, head boys basketball coach at Stratford High School here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. You touched probably on the 3 games that have been, to a certain extent, defining of the season, the 2 games against Marathon and the 1 against Auburndale. And hearing you talk about it, it makes me think that you probably didn't sleep very well after each of those games for different reasons. When you go 11 for 26 at the line and lose by a point to Marathon, I'm sure you're not sleeping very well. But then to come from a 12-point halftime deficit in Marathon to win by 2 the second time around last week, probably didn't sleep for a different reason. What was the difference in that second half last week against Marathon that allowed you to earn a massive win to basically keep those conference title hopes alive?
Well, that's a tricky one because there was still the disbelief that happened after the game because it was weird things that happened. I don't know if you guys saw it at all or a live stream or whatever it may have been, but we were down, I think 15 at one point in the first half, and it's one of those deals where we were able to change up some things defensively, put on some pressures, and then you're just hoping they can handle it, and they can't handle it, and they always usually can. And we're able to get some deflections that landed in our lap, go the other way, and then I think we only made 5 threes the whole game. So we still didn't shoot well. We shot in the 30s still and won. So I don't know how that happened, but I think they had 22 turnovers, if I remember correctly. And so that helps. And then we made free throws in the second half when we needed to. And, but we hit some big shots at the end, too. We were able to clear out and try to create some double gaps so that they had to help. And then we had some shooters that we thought could hopefully hit the shot sitting in the corner to hit those, and then they hit them. And pretty soon we're up. And then we were able to take care of the ball, and we made our free throws as much as we could.
Coach, for how many years have you been coach in total? I know you started with the girls and then moved over to the boys. How many years total is this?
Well, 27 at the high school level. I was able to move up the ranks from 5th and 6th grade basketball when I student taught at Galletic Trempolo. So when I taught 6th grade, I took over their 5th and 6th grade program, and I'm telling the truth, but I'm joking that I'm mentioning that to you. I had to move up fast from 5th and 6th grade to JV my first year in Stratford, so I really moved up fast. Fast track, I tell you.
Well,
skip middle school.
That's cool. So I asked the number because...
So to answer your question, it's 27.
Okay. And
total high school in Stratford.
Gotcha. And I asked the question because, Chad and I debate, how the coaches can slide around. Sometimes you don't have these guys that are, or girls that are at these spots for long times. And it's kind of neat to see that relationship has been developed so strong that coach sticks around and has that school pride's there, and they know the kids and they're in the building. And it's just a big deal that it's so, kind of driven with, that's a good community setting for that. But my question is, how have you changed? I've heard varsity coaches say, yeah, I watch a lot less game film, or I've mellowed, or whatever it is. How do you think from, the Kurt Schmidt that was doing 5th, 6th grade basketball all the way to now has changed or evolved as a coach? What's different about you? Or is there? Maybe there's not.
There isn't. I'll be honest with you. It's a hard life. I'm going to be brutal honest. I'm one that I have to put a ton of time into it, and what happens is I don't have a life for 4 months. You ever hear the stories of Vince Lombardi would walk into people's houses in Green Bay and not know the people, and just randomly would walk into a house because he was so preoccupied he thought he was going into his own house. And I don't mean to share that story lightly. Like my wife the other day, hey, do you want to let's go out to eat tonight? And I look at her and it's like, it's the middle of the week. I can't. I have 2 games this week. I can't. And then I had to stop myself. I'm like, okay, this is first priority. Okay, I can. But I was preoccupied. I couldn't enjoy it like I wanted to. So to answer your question, and I'm being brutally honest, it's hard. It's a life that I think I see why coaches eventually, because I'm in my 50s now, and I see where they get tired, where they wear out because they feel like they miss a lot too during that time. Now it's been richly rewarding. I'm not complaining, but if you go hard all the time, eventually you're going to run out of gas. And I hope it's not soon, but it's not easy at all. So to answer your question, what adjustments have I made? I honestly have not. I still do all my summer, camps and my skill development stuff. I still watch a lot of film. I still a lot of preparation, a lot of preoccupation, and it's hard to relax. It's hard to enjoy the holidays. I'm not being me. You've been there, so you can understand this.
Yep.
Well, of course, that's why you have a smile on your face all the time right now. But
hey, I no parent complaints of basketball yet this year.
No, yeah. Why would you in second grade basketball? Your kids are up there in middle school now, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't mean to sound weird about this, but if you there's a reason. If you have things go your way, you literally have to put the time into it. You have to. You can't just do it half. and just take it easy. Well, I'll watch a little bit. I'm 50-some years old right now, so I'll get by. No, you got to know what they want to do, how they want to do it, because if you're off offensively, you got to be able to make adjustments and put your kids in the right spots to be successful. Otherwise, it's no good.
I was having a conversation with a varsity basketball coach recently who's been around a while, and talking about games, practice, and balance for the kids, because we keep getting more and more games. Used to be 20 games, not as many non-conference games. Maybe more time for practice, maybe more time to have a little bit more balance during the course of the season. What do you think about where we stand in terms of games? Or do you think the number of games that we have right now in high school basketball is where it should be? Are we at a point that we're getting too many? Are you finding that it's more difficult to get the practice time? I just was interested, somebody who's seen the development where we've added a lot more games. Your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I'll quote, the Dick Bennett, who would always say, I love practices, but I hate games. But that's not how I feel. But why did he say that? Because you get so wound up, and there's so much to prepare for a game. You can't enjoy yourself. Whereas practice, you're with the players. You don't have the pressure. You love putting together the practice plan. You love watching them get better. You love the relaxation of the high-fiving them and asking them how their day went, all that stuff. But to answer your question, it's hard to go on an average of 2 games a week all year round, or all season, I should say, not all year round, but it's hard. Like when I see a bye, like you have that week where you're like, oh man, we don't play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Oh, it'd be nice to have that one. But on the flip side, it's like I do a holiday tournament. Why do I do a holiday tournament? Because if you take 2 weeks off, you get rusty really fast. And if you take a full week off, it kind of can mess a little bit with a rhythm but as a coach, in the burnout of life, it's hard. It's like you're writing term papers twice a week. You get done with one game, you got to watch it, see what you made mistakes with, so you can correct it the next day. But then you got to start watching games again for who you're going to face in 2 days. And it's just like football, you got 1 day a week. You can kind of you got weightlifting and maybe light stuff on Monday. They have their own routine. But basketball, and our girls, heck, I think they have 3 games in 5 or 6 days this week. So it's kind of like, I think it's in 5 days or whatever, but it's a grinder, man. It is a grinder. So to answer your question, it's hard to go 2 games a week all season long. And now it's not how it is. There's like 1 or 2 weeks built in, but it's definitely, it's difficult, but I get it too, because people like games. And the kids like games. Remember middle school where all you did was play games and you practiced maybe once a week?
Yes, definitely.
Kids love that. Coaches don't, but the kids love it.
And with all your time on the sidelines too, and in your coaching career, and maybe we might have asked you this before, but I'm still curious what your opinion is. What do you think about the current computer versus the old sit down and debate it out for the playoffs, especially with you guys? I'm assuming, I haven't looked at any playoff brackets yet, but I'm assuming, are you guys all still kind of together, or do you go a separate area than some of the other Merriwood teams? I mean, what do you think of the old regional meetings versus the computerized system?
I like the computerized system better because the meetings were uncomfortable because there would be sometimes a coach or two that would have to be going to an area where there was 6 or 7 conference coaches, and the problem with that is if I'm in a conference of 6, 7 teams, let's just say, and I'm probably exaggerating a little bit to make a point, but and the 1 or 2 in there, and you vote for the ones, even though they're better. Now the other guys frown at you. You're supposed to defend me. You're supposed to have my back. And you don't care about what those other two coaches think about you. You don't talk to them every day. You don't even talk to them, but maybe once a year in a seating meeting. So you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So that you saw some of that stuff, and then even in your own, let's say, I got to decide between, one of our conference. Let's just throw out Marathon and Auburndale because, they're always, pretty close to on top every year. And I got to pick between the two, and it's pretty even. Well, if I pick one over the other one's going to get sore at me. You know what I'm saying? And you could flip a coin on them. The computer system is, to me, remember the really old days where it was predetermined?
Yeah.
20 years ago, it was predetermined before your season started. And you would face a team 3 times. They would be, bad record, or they could be having 2 good teams with great records playing the first game of the regionals. And that's not a good system. That's a bad system. So I think this is kind of in the middle. There's goods, there's bads, but I wasn't a big fan of the coaches one because I just felt there was some biasness that took place, which is why we got to this, because football happened to football. And football started they experimented with football first with the seating meeting. It was computerized. The computerized form of seating is what I'm trying to say. So if that answers your question, I like this because I remember one year I had to drive to Wabeno for a seating meeting. What is that, 3 hours? 2.5, 3 hours? Something like that?
Yeah.
I had to drive there for a seating meeting. 3 hours. Yeah, so I'm glad those days are over. So to answer your question, I do like the computer seating because it's not perfect. It's not. But, I'll take it. I'm okay with whatever you throw at me as long as it's not way out of this world crazy.
And I guess for my last question, I just, again, in conversations with coaches around the area, or you see people at these youth sporting events on the weekends, just tough to get a lot of times assistants, that they stick around with you. They know how it works. You play off each other really well. You got different roles and personalities that are good for the kids. And I know you've had, we all have had a position at one level or the other that can turn over here and there. But if you can keep a couple of guys around that are really good for everything, that's a big deal. How important, what props do you give to your assistants? Because you've had a handful of guys that stick around for a while with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start out with my middle school coaches. I've had 2 middle school coaches, Travis Scraw and Scott Bauman, who've been doing it for at least a dozen years, if not longer.
And those guys, their kids have gone on, and they're still doing it, right?
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone. The kids are all graduated. They do it for fun,
right?
And they know what they're doing. I love what they do. Okay, so I haven't had to worry about that in a long time, and they keep kids enjoying it. They're the types, they don't get all bent out of shape, like during the game. They don't scream and holler and kick the bench or the chair and shame the kids. They don't do that. They're great. And then Derek Austin, you remember him when he played, and we had some tough games with you when he played. He's been my JV2 coach for a while now. And you got to remember before that I had Chris Fisher, who was the head coach. So you talk about propelling yourself from JV2 to having a nice dynasty going in Marshall. But he's gone. But Derek took over for him. Well, I've had Bill Knetter. Basically, he's put a second career in. I don't know if you guys remember when he's doing girls way back. He coached just over, I think, 20 years with the girls, and then he's been with me probably 20, 21 years.
Wow.
So he's put a second career in just with me, Hall of Famer. He's been fantastic. I can't believe he's stuck around coaching with me, to be honest with you, because he's just, there's other things to do in life. And he has been a rock. He's a mastermind at developing kids keep it simple at the JV level, but spend lots of time on fundamentals. He's a master at kind of treating it like a basketball camp, and because his whole goal is to get him ready for me. And he's been unbelievable. And without him, we wouldn't have had overall pretty good competitive success that we've had over the years. And then, of course, I had Corey Heckel for a few years from Everest, and he was fantastic. I was lucky there, and he really helped see things from different perspectives. I was fortunate there. And then this year, I don't know if you know this, but my son Chandler is helping me this year as a varsity assistant as his first year. Mm. So he just graduated from Winona State in teaching. He's going to actually be the head baseball coach at Medford this spring.
Cool.
Head coach Kurt Schmidt of the Stratford Tigers. Anything you want to add as we finish up?
I got to say on air, though, that I appreciate all these guys that you used to work with in the Merriwood. They, at a drop of a dime, they show up. It's just a text message. It's so simple. I mean, you're playing your game. I shout it out during the game, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he'll tell me he'll be good to go tomorrow. So I appreciate that. That's another kind of one of those old school values, to show up and have a good time talking some hoops and reliving the old days.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too. But to your co-host there, I think was mentioning something about if I have something to add. Last night we had Zaleski Sports. The announcer was showing me the history for some reason. I go, man, you must be retired and bored. But he's showing the history of Stratford basketball way back into the 40s. And what's funny about it is the longest tenured coach that we could see on there was like 5 or 6 years.
Really?
That's it. And they had tremendous success in the 50s and about 3 conference titles in the 60s, and then it's just kind of wavered. But that's it. And I've lasted 22 years as a boys coach in Stratford. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the opportunity. It's been great for me. And I do miss our interactions of, seeing you, coaching with you, against you, whatever we want to call it. And anytime you need an interview, I'm happy to do it for you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Really appreciate it. Best of luck the rest of the way. Very exciting time of year. And as Jeff said, we do appreciate your time. And we may well take you up on that offer very soon. So thanks again.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Head coach Kurt Schmidt of the Stratford Tigers. Again, right there with Auburndale Marathon. We say that every year when it comes to the Merriwood Conference. We're going to take a time out for our top of the hour, and then we're going to come back with our student-athlete guest, Griffin Lange from Wausau West. That's coming up in hour number 2 of the program here on 98.9 WXCO, the Big High School Sports Show.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started. Hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO, brought to you by K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With former Newman Catholic High School head boys basketball coach Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Very happy to welcome in our student-athlete guest for this week from Wausau West High School, senior boys basketball standout Griffin Lange. Griff, thanks for coming on by.
Yeah, really happy to be here.
Terrific. And let's start talking about the team to begin with, and we'll kind of delve into your basketball journey. But 14-4, 6-2 in the conference. What's been working for Wausau West this year? Because going into this year, I think everybody was looking at the Valley very, very deep, very, very tough. But when you're talking about the top four, not many, maybe a few around here, were saying that Wausau West would be right there. What's been the key for the Warriors?
Yeah, I think a big key for us this year has been trying to stay together and play together. I think, as you kind of mentioned, the Valley's really deep, and there's a lot of really good players. And maybe we don't stack up as good individually, but I think as a group, when we play together, when we're going on all cylinders, I think that would definitely stack up a lot better.
Let me ask one more thing, because one of the things that's been noticeable about West for a number of years, that many of you guys are about the same size. I think that's one of the keys where people don't see a 6'8" kid coming in there. How does that work in terms of, you have a lot of guys that move around in terms of, different skill sets, but not a lot of size. Has that made you better basketball players? Do you work better as a team? The lack of size, how does that affect what you guys do?
Yeah, I think it almost makes us have to be more skilled to make up for that lack of size. Then as well, it just makes us a lot more interchangeable. When it comes to defense, we can switch a lot of stuff because it doesn't matter who's guarding who really. And then, kind of offensively, everyone's got to know how to play every spot kind. There's not really a set place where each person has to be.
One of the things whenever I watch West basketball, hear about West basketball from Chad, is that, the things that you guys seem to hang your heads on is always any game, no matter what ability level, skill sets, who's playing that night, the defense is there. The intensity is there. We're going to pride ourselves on, we may not put the ball in the basket as often as we want, but we're going to make this just a nightmare for you. Just from every year I've watched West basketball, it's just going to be there's a tremendous amount of energy and effort on that end of the floor. Is that something that just you buy in through the program? Something that's also self-driven. Where does that come from? That just becomes such a, this is my opinion, just a staple of what West basketball is, and it's going to be a nightmare if I was on the court with you guys, because you're not going to get any easy shots, and we're going to be hanging around on every time you try to move on the offensive end.
Yeah, I think it's a buy-in mostly. Defense is the most glamorous thing, especially nowadays. But I think that we do take a lot of pride in just holding teams to their lowest score of the season or making every single play difficult for them. That
said, I think this year you guys are showing both ends of the court. And for yourself, let's talk a little bit about your progression, because you got a chance to play as a freshman on the varsity side. How have you changed as a player since you were a freshman up to where you are now as a senior?
Yeah, I think I've for sure gained a lot of confidence. I think that's the biggest thing. I think my body and my mind, my ability just to play the game has always kind of been there. But then recently, the last couple of years, I've definitely gotten a lot better and just become a lot better leader and just been able to lead the team more.
What does being a leader mean to you in terms of what are you able to do maybe now this year that you weren't doing previously?
Yeah, I think for being a leader for me, it just means having the respect of the guys. Mm-hmm. And just having that kind of mutual respect for everybody. And then some things I've noticed this year is my voice is heard a lot more, kind of with that respect. And then also people just listen. I don't talk a lot. I'm not the most vocal leader. I'm more of a lead by example kind of guy. Mm-hmm. But then when I do talk, people listen for sure.
And you've had time to analyze your game playing since a freshman and from year to year. And senior year is obviously a big year because it's all you got left. Graduation's coming and you can't stop it. So that time on the court's going to end whenever that last game is. From your junior to senior year, those off seasons just become more and more of a big deal to develop your game. What's the biggest thing you think you worked on this off season that you wanted to adjust in your game from last season to this season?
Probably just shooting. I think obviously lifting every day and all that stuff's good, but I definitely spend a lot of time just additionally shooting, on the gun, whether it be a workout or anything like that.
Sometimes I've heard that there are times that coaches want you to shoot more, and that sometimes you're such a good team player. You've talked about your well-rounded game, and that's something I think that really anybody that watches you play realizes that you're a well-rounded player. Sometimes is it have you been able to find maybe that moment where you can take the team on your shoulders a little bit more as you've matured as a basketball player?
Yeah, I think I'm still working towards that a little bit, kind of like you alluded to. Sometimes I do need to shoot more and be a little bit more selfish because sometimes I'm just too caught up on trying to get everybody involved. But I definitely think I've improved a lot on that this season sometimes, just realizing that I need to kind of take the shot and take it.
That said, that is not a bad thing. I mean, and one thing that's noticeable, and I remember popping by a practice even before the season started. There seems to be a pretty good chemistry on this team, that the guys get along well. Would you say that's true, and would that be a big factor in the success?
Yeah, I definitely think we all get along pretty well. I think a lot like the defensive buy-in. I think just a lot of things, it takes everybody. And then once we do that, it helps a lot. And then, we're all pretty even scoring and all that kind of stuff. So I think that when everybody buys in, we're all able to play and just trying to win. Let me
ask you a question. I hate missing it Thursday. What happened with Jackson Riley? How did that come about?
he just got it.
I mean, that must have been like 3 times his career high, right?
Yeah, he just got it and made one.
What was that like, seeing him just explode like that?
It was amazing. I mean, he hasn't been playing the best this year. He's had his games like that Spash game. He was huge for that little stretch. It was just awesome to see, because he shot a lot with me in the summer and did a lot of stuff with me in the summer lifting. So it's just really fun to see guys like come out like that.
That is. I mean, I thought that was wonderful. I saw a social media posting afterwards with the 31. It was very, very cool. Yeah. Again, we're talking to Griffin Lange from Wausau West here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
And you alluded to Jackson Riley, one of your teammates right now. What about some of the other guys that you want to mention? Because obviously it seems from your leadership, your appreciation of the sport, the time you've put in, obviously your teammates, I would assume, are a big deal to you. And it shows in West's success that they've had, especially the grind you just put down, where went over and put up about 90 on Lakeland and beat Rapids, who's still looking for that first win, which is always a little, I think they're sitting there waiting to knock somebody off, so a little tricky game. And then you turn around and win the war with the Lemons brothers and on Tuesday night. Some of your other teammates, what are they doing that you're liking, or share some of your knowledge of them that they have for the Wausau West boys basketball program?
Yeah, so first Bennett and Marcus, they're both 2 really good defenders. A lot of times guarding other teams' best players. Bennett's definitely taking a lot of strides offensively, and just his energy is really valuable. And then Marcus, like I alluded to, really, really good defender. He's a really good driver. And then Brady Phelps, he had a good game on Tuesday. He's a really athletic big for us. He can shoot. And then Nico was just a really decisive player. Really unfortunate to see him go down. And some other guys, Karji Cooper, he's a senior. He's been really good this year. Kind of a breakout year for him. He played a little bit last year.
Karji? No, he's not a senior, is he?
No, he's a junior.
Yeah, you said senior.
Yeah.
we gotta keep him around for at least one more year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I jumped in on you there.
And then, Karji's a really, really good year this year. And like I was talking about Jackson, he's so fun to be around. He's kind of the team clown a little bit. Trying to warm before games. He's just making everybody laugh. And then Miles Walvo, he's another sophomore. He's a really good defender, good shooter as well.
Let's take a step back. When did you start playing basketball? How old were you?
I started playing basketball in first grade. I was in the first grade talent show at my elementary school.
Did you know right away that this was something you wanted to stick with?
Not really. My first sport was actually kind of baseball. I really loved baseball, like all through elementary school.
What was it about basketball then that got you eventually?
I think just like with baseball, it's kind of slow paced, and then basketball, you're obviously always like closer to your friends because you're right next to playing with them. It's a lot fast paced.
And how long have you been playing AAU? You remember what year you started?
Since 5th grade.
Yeah, so unique experience for some people. It's exactly what they want. Other people got to find their niche, and some people can get in from what you shared with us. Get into like where it's a good thing. Playing with those guys. It's not. Because sometimes you get on a team where everybody's trying to showcase every little thing, and it's not really team-driven like you want to reciprocate during your high school sports during the season. So what has that meant to you, and how cool? I think it's cool when you can go against some guys that are your rivals, and you go hang out and joke around, and when we get there together, it's all fun. When we step on the court during the Valley season, it's war, but then it's all forgotten about. How cool has that been, playing that AAU stuff with those guys that are in the conference with you?
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think I got really lucky just being able to get on team that early, and then just sticking with that same core group all the way through this year. And then kind of like you mentioned, like just being able to play against those guys twice a year, especially in huge rivalry games like that. It's the best games of the year. It's so fun.
Is there some fun moments where you guys say something here or there because you know each other just a little bit more, because around the court you'd be like, hey, that was a horrible shot just to one of the guys or something, or you should have taken it. Or do you guys do a little razz?
Yeah, we do a little bit. And then after the game, we normally be like, all right, it was just all jokes and fun.
Cool.
Who is your favorite rival?
Overall, I would probably say Everest.
Why Everest? Because I mean, it's very interesting because I think there's always a good reason to say East. There's a good reason to say Everest. Why Everest?
I mean, East is obviously a huge rival too, but for me, it's Everest just because obviously I play against those guys, play with them all the time, and then I just feel like in all sports, we're just always really, really even with them.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like that's our biggest rival and definitely my favorite to play against.
Are you involved in any other sports?
Yeah, I'm in track and field.
What do you do in track?
High jump, and then last year I was on the 4x1 relay.
How successful has your track career been?
We went to state last year for 4x1. I was alternate, so that was really, really fun.
Just looking a little bit at let's jump back back to the basketball quick with Spash. How important has those 2 wins been where you swept them? I mean, it's not been easy to do for I think any team over the years where you sweep Spash, and you guys did it and find yourself sitting in a great place in the conference. How big were those 2 wins to your varsity team this year?
Yeah, it's been amazing, especially the first one, being able to go into that building, especially after what we thought was kind of a bad Eau Claire North loss, kind of be able to rebound and just kind of being in control of that whole game and that atmosphere. It's definitely highlighted my career, honestly. And then this last one that we just had a week ago, that was just a really good atmosphere, just the vibe around the school. And then it was just really amazing to see how that translates, and now we're at a good spot in the conference because of that.
That game last Tuesday killed my voice for the rest of the week. And I'm not kidding. I want my voice Wednesday.
I listened to it.
Tuesday was okay, and then on Wednesday, it was gone. What was are you planning on continuing to play basketball at the next level?
No, probably not. I'm kind of just ready to be done. Like I think AAU, there's definitely a lot of good parts, but it's also kind of draining. Like just with workouts for high school and then tournaments, like all those weekends.
That begs the question. You said a lot of positives. Was it too much? Do you sometimes think maybe if you would have not been as deep into it all the time that maybe you wouldn't feel this at this point the way you feel?
I think it was definitely a positive overall, but I think also at times I just got way too consumed in it. And I forgot just to take a step back and kind of like realize like the fun of it, like the camaraderie, being with guys from other schools. I think I just got too consumed in like trying to win every game and forgetting that like I'm staying in a hotel with a lot of my best friends. So
along that line real fast, being now a senior and now having an opportunity hopefully to see your team make a nice finish to the regular season, make a nice run. Does it all feel more important with this decision that your basketball in terms of this level of competition maybe coming to an end? Does this put a little bit more weight on what's going to happen in the next month or so?
Yeah, it definitely does. I feel like I've always kind of took basketball really seriously, and now that I feel like that's even more so a factor because like kind of said, it's kind of my last chance to make an impact.
And have you made a decision on where you're going to go to school?
Yeah, lacrosse.
And did you pick any, like, do you have, we'll just start with that. Do you have like a favorite class you have right now for high school? Or something that stands out in terms of like an area, like the English versus the math or something like that?
Right now, I'll probably say MC Lit with Coach Teskey. He's a teacher for that.
Yeah, that's a good answer if he's listening. And then is that going to spark any thing you want to go into, or do you have an idea where you want to lead yourself into what major you might attempt or go with?
Yeah, right now I'm thinking either something in like the physical therapy realm or like business. I'm not really decided yet though fully.
Lacrosse is good. My sister went there, so
yeah,
that's pretty good.
Beautiful area.
I've heard good things about it. Again, we're talking to Griffin Lange from Wausau West here on 98.9 WXCO. Let's talk about Friday's game because going to DCE, that's always a fun game. And I think you said it. I mean, it's a great rivalry. It's always a lot of energy in the building. It looks like an evergreen team that had a nice comeback win against Mosinee last night. What's been the talk at practice? What do you expect on Friday?
Yeah, obviously Cade Felch had a really good game against us. The first one, huge game. So
you gave him a highlight film for his career, I think, in that first half.
Yeah, like 26 in the first half, something like that. So we've been talking like today, just walking through some of their actions, and then tomorrow we'll go through it more full speed. And also just talking about like how Cohen kind of makes them a different team, just with his ability to handle the ball. He's a really good shooter as well.
And You talked about some of the injuries. How big a deal within your leadership role as one of the key players and lead players on this team? What do you feel is kind of maybe your responsibility to help acclimate? A guy goes down, it unfortunately is always next guy up, but sometimes the reps aren't necessarily there. Maybe you have to take a younger care. What do you see as your role to kind of patch that gap for when a teammate goes down?
Yeah, I think perspective is really important, because this is obviously kind of like a hard way to realize it, but you can't take any rep for granted really, just because like no game's guaranteed or anything.
You feel more pressure on yourself that you have to maybe lead or take somebody under your wing a little bit more to make sure they're in tune with what you guys accomplish, or guys good to go?
Yeah, I won't really call it pressure, but definitely just like a realization of it's definitely go time now for sure.
What does your team have to improve on to beat some of the top teams maybe in the East or the West when the playoffs come around?
I think offensively, just being better, kind of getting what we want a little bit more. I think defensively we can guard a lot of people well, and then just staying disciplined defensively is really important for us.
Looking back, going back, because I got an argument. My son's an 8th grader, so I got an argument that you're gonna help me prove right on. So going back to, you've spent a lot of time and effort in that AAU program, and it's got great rewards, and there can be things that can be a little choppy. One of the teams he was on kind of disbanded this year, and he's got his heart set on having to play, and I told him too, there's a sense of workout that you can also do on your own and accomplish things. Looking back on it, do you think that AAU is the end all to where it's taken you today, or do you think it's maybe a combo of some sort, or is it more, let alone the work you've put in the off season? What do you think's gotten you to the point, or could you have taken a different path, or is this the best way to go?
I mean, I think AAU is good in moderation. I don't think you should be having one practice a week and then go play in 5 games, but I think AAU definitely helps, just obviously in practice.
You're not helping me, by the way. Go ahead.
But just being able to practice with other really good players, and then but also summer workouts and that stuff is really, really important, because that's just kind of your time to hone in on your own self and kind of see what you need to improve on.
Anything else before our final question?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we've had a lot of questions, so I'm hoping I'm not repeating myself. Just kind of the importance of what you've maybe learned about yourself from freshman year to this year, because I think it takes a lot to come off a middle school program and be get on the varsity floor, because it's all bigger, faster, stronger, bug-eyed. The nice part is you make a mistake, you're a freshman, but probably going to get noticed because you're the freshman. Yeah. But you've logged a lot of hours. How I guess what's going to be your favorite memory, or what are you going to miss about high school basketball when it's all said and done, since you've logged so many hours out there?
I think I'm just going to miss the team aspect the most. Kind of when I was a freshman, I wasn't the best of friends with those guys, but I still talk to some of those guys to this day, and all those guys made me feel so welcome. So now with some of the freshmen, sophomore we got, I just want to create that same kind of environment for them, and then so that cycle can just kind of continue.
We always finish up by asking, especially the seniors, based on your experience, and I think with you it's a perfect question because you've had so much experience. For a freshman that's just coming into the Wausau West program, based on what you've learned, what piece of advice could you give a freshman just starting their journey that you're almost to the finish line on?
Good question. I would probably say just to live in the moment. I think it's easy, if you're a freshman or a younger guy, to kind of be oh, I wish I was this, and this, but it's almost more about the journey that it takes to get there and finding joy and all that stuff. And then all that other stuff will just kind of come to you.
Very good. Griffin Lange, it's been a lot of fun watching you perform for the last 4 years. Hopefully, a number of more games coming up at the end of the regular season, the postseason. Look forward to seeing you on Friday at DC Everest. And again, really appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Griffin Lange of the Wausau West Warriors. We'll take a timeout, come back with more Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
Significant changes to the football playoffs are approved at the WIAA Board of Control meeting. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. At Wednesday's WIAA Board of Control meeting in Stevens Point, the group approved several significant changes to the high school football playoff system. The board voted 10-1 in favor of implementing the football playoff matrix for qualification and seeding, and 8-3 to utilize the system for assigning regional groupings as well. The playoff matrix was proposed by the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association in an attempt to bring consistency and transparency to the process, with a data-driven approach that continues to balance travel distances and geographic representation. Division assignments will now be done before the season, and teams will qualify within their identified division. Points are awarded for all wins based on the size of the opponent, with points also pulled in from games that teams win to incorporate strength of schedule. Based on those points, teams will qualify for the playoffs and be assigned a seed 1 through 8. A computer will then assign one of each seed to groups based on limiting travel distance, but allowing for more balance in the strength of regional groupings. Also, the 8-player football playoffs will expand to 32 teams, with the season starting 1 week earlier to accommodate the additional round of tournament play. Both plans will be implemented in the 2025 season. You can read more about all the plans over at wisports.net. This has been a wisports.net Minute. Check us out online at wisports.net.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction, family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Again, it's always nice when we have these guests that take the weight off our shoulders. Yeah. Both Kurt Schmidt, Stratford boys basketball coach, and Griffin Lange for Wausau West, terrific guests.
Yeah, good conversation, and I like, for Coach Schmidt, I like the way the picture he paints with the statistics and the analysis he gives, and Griffin's just kind of straightforward, tells you what he's seeing, and his answers were great too. So I really like what we get to see on the inside parts of these programs when you're not in the practices with them and you're not seeing all the interaction during the games. It just allows you to know that there's great things happening in high school sports.
Let's talk girls high school basketball. Wisconsin Valley Conference, Stevens Point 8-0, 15-4 overall. Marshfield 7-1, still right there, 11-8. Wausau West 5-4, 6-14. Wisconsin Rapids and DC Evers 3-5 in the conference. Merrill 1-6. Wausau East 0-6. Wausau West completed a season sweep of Rapids Friday, 49-42. Paige Anderson 15, Iris Walvogel 12 for the Warriors. The unfortunate thing for West is they had to go right back at it Saturday afternoon, go to Mosinee. And Mosinee, obviously playing good basketball, beat the Warriors 71-32. Also on Friday night in conference play, Stevens Point beat DC Evers 59-21. Marshfield was supposed to play East, but that game got canceled, so they picked up a non-conference game and played over at the UWSP at Marshfield campus, right. And they beat Bangor 62-48. And then a lot of non-conference play in the last couple of nights. Everest fell to Eau Claire North 36-32 on Monday. Merrill fell to Adams Friendship 68-43. Marshfield beat Baraboo 74-22. Medford over East 67-13. Spash went up north to Rhinelander, winning 54-38. And Rapids, a non-conference win against Chi High, 57-52. We talked about the Valley and girls basketball. The story kind of has remained the same throughout the season.
Yeah, some non-conference struggles. You can kind of early on waiting for people to jockey position. It just seems like so long ago at the beginning of the season when we were talking about who's going to pop up to the top of that, because there's a couple guessing games and who might finished strong right away, and for Spash to be, they're at an 8-0 mark in a conference that, is not real top heavy on anything. Marshfield's 7-1, West is 5-4, so some good conference records. But then you look at some of those other records, they dip off quite rapidly. So I thought for Spash, a quality win against DC Everest. Lost out of conference with Hudson on I think that was Saturday.
Real fast. I want to kind of mention that. I should have mentioned that. 71-67, Hudson beat Spash. Game that was played in Hudson. A year ago, Hudson beat Marshfield in Hudson in a playoff game. So this is definitely one of those sectional type games. Jada Seibert had 32. She is just terrific. Leah Alway had 13, but there were 4 Hudson players between 10 and 17 points. If you give Jada Seibert a little bit of help, that Stevens Point team is going to be very dangerous.
Yeah, it makes it tough when you have those two-headed scores there, and it shows. I mean, they're just a couple points low on that Hudson game, and again, we talked about it with the Auburndale boys. You can't have 4 guys or 4 girls scoring in double digits. It just makes, you probably don't win that game. And I thought for Spash, again, is a Clark girl healthy yet for Rhinelander?
No, that's okay. I was going to bring that in the GNC part.
Yeah, so they get a win at Rhinelander, which they should have if the Clark girl's not healthy, and then. Marshfield hanging around on things with wins at Bangor or against Bangor and also against Baraboo. So good games there for them to stay atop of that conference. Still kind of hovering in the lead. I got to look who they have left because I think with Spash is going to sit it there. But there's a game on. I think next Tuesday is the big game where it's going to come down, which we'll talk again. Yep. But just to mention, go ahead.
Also wanted to mention Everest because it feels like they kind of hit a wall here, scoring-wise, offensively. They have not been able to get much going offensively. Gave up only 36 against Eau Claire North. Again, I'm curious over the next few years because Everest has a great basketball tradition on the girls' side. And I think that with Coach Bullis, what we heard from her earlier in the year, that they're going to rise again. But it's been interesting to see in a building project, sometimes there's some potholes.
Well, and it takes time, and especially you want such a, as a coach, I think ultimately if you got your decision, you'd like to have a balance on your offensive and defensive side of the balls where you got choices and options, what's going to carry you maybe on a given night. And if they're both going well, then you should have good success in that basketball game. So I think if you look at their overall scores, I think their leading scorer has 8 points a game. So they just aren't getting that offensive output where I think not set aside that Spash score that just popped up. There is getting some defensive edge to that. And once you find that balance, which is, again, maybe building through the program, working on kids' abilities throughout the offseason at the lower levels, it comes around to get the offensive outfit you put. So I think you're still going to see some time. And I think, there's tradition there with Coach Bullis and what she knows Everest basketball has been.
Great Northern Conference. Lakeland still undefeated, 9-0, 16-4 overall. Mosinee 6-2, 12-5. Rhinelander 6-3, 11-8. Tomahawk 4-4, 10-8. Medford 4-5, 8-11. Pines 1-7, 5-14. Antigo 0-9, 2-15. Antigo got a win against East. Got to give a tip of the cap because again, when you have a struggle during the year, those girls battle. And I've always said in high school athletics, one of the hardest things has to be not the losing, but maybe going to school. You don't want to be on a team that's losing all the time, and then you get that win. That's big. And I think that those teams that battle, trying to build something, I think they deserve the respect just as much as some of the teams at the top.
Yeah, it's not an easy road when you look in the win category and there's nothing there. So for them to get that W, I'm sure it sends you into a higher emotional state, sends you into a little bit better atmosphere that next practice. It gives you something to hang your hat on and keep pushing forward to continue to be better, not only as a team but as a program. And I think that should be acknowledged when they can pull that off. So good for Antigo to get a W.
Mosinee beat Medford Friday 75-51, and Taylor Jersley did not have a big high school sports show letdown. She had 31 points in that game. And then on Saturday, they beat West with Jersley with 21 points. And so, again, good week for Mosinee. Lakeland beat Antigo 80-22 on Friday. Christina Wabet 36 points. And then beat Salant Springs, who has a very good record we mentioned last week. Yep. They beat them last night 93-36 as well. And Rhinelander Friday beat Pines only 40-34. And again, no Auburn Clark, averaging more than 21 points per game. She's been out, I think, now for 4 or 5 games. And it shows what a difference one player can make.
Oh, yeah. If you've got that, it's just that consistent shoulder to ride on when you need a shot, or maybe because that person is such an offensive output on the scoring end that they're going to get assists. They're going to dump the ball. They're going to draw attention. So, for Ryan Lander right now, it's a little tough go. So I'm assuming sometimes any win at this point during late in the season without your top scorer is going to be a good win, and you just keep trying to plug away to get those wins so you get a little higher in your playoff ranks.
And Romette keeps consistently putting up the big numbers.
Well, and that score, I saw 93-36, after you said Salon Springs record, I thought might have more of a little bit of a game and a little tighter, but obviously shows how good Lakeland is and what Romette can do on the court.
Marewood South girls, Assumption 12-0 in the conference, 17-1 overall. Stratford 9-2, 14-4. Auburndale 9-3, 15-4. Marathon 8-3, 15-3. Edgar 3-9, 7-13. Newman 2-10, 3-14. Last Thursday, big one. Assumption beat Auburndale 56-40, and Jordan Jaglinski 25 points in that game. And then they had a good non-conference win against Neillsville, who had lost only one game before that. Assumption beat them 55-54 in Neillsville on Monday night. So obviously a good week for Assumption.
Yeah, when you can take one of your conference competitors and knock them back a little bit by beating them, and then turn around and go to another team in the area, Neillsville with their rich tradition and success that they've had, and go to their gym and get it done with in a tightly contested game, I think really gets you ready for what you're going to see down the stretch.
Marathon beat Newman Thursday 60-29, and Stratford beat Edgar 50-35. Monday, Marathon a non-conference win 53-28 over Stanley Boyd, and Columbus Catholic beat Newman 64-28. Aubrey Pent had 13 in that game. Auburndale lost to Pittsville on Monday, non-conference game. Pittsville having a very good season. Don't really talk much about them. They're in the CWC South, but they're battling Pacelli at the top of that league. So not a surprise in that game.
No, when I saw that score, I watched Pittsville early on. I think they're 15-4 right now, and I think they lost a game early, and so not a surprise that Auburndale got beat by them because they're a good basketball team. But for Stratford, still content 9-2 overall, 14-4, still getting the W's that they need to do to just kind of hang at the top of the conference. I'm Marathon. I know last year wasn't the season that their program or coaches wanted, and to see them at 15-3 and 8-3 overall, and the win in the conference against Newman and turn around beat Stanley Boyd non-conferences, some good games for them, and I'm interested to see how, if any of that propels them and they play Stratford in that second game, how they compete with them.
Marewood North Phillips still leads the way, 8-3 in the conference, 14-5 overall. Rib Lake second, 6-5 in the league. Prentice 6-6, Abbotsford 4-7, Athens 2-10, Shawamigan winless. Phillips continues to put up good points. They beat Athens 70-43. Matea Eckert 21, Sarah Canuck 17. They lost to Somerset, a Division III team, on Saturday on the road 61-56, and beat Gilman Monday 56-46. Eckert 19. Always interesting to watch Phillips when they get to the playoffs because they find ways to put the ball in the hole, and that can be big. They've been good on the scoring end. Last year was two of the girls. Yeah, and now Eckert was in the mix of that all the time, and now she's kind of taking the reins. And it's just fun to watch that transformation, how from year to year through graduation, somebody leaves and somebody steps up. And, Phillips is interesting. They're up in the north. You don't see as much about them except in what we read on paper, but always, I think, a formidable foe. They have a good program up there. Those girls played hard. I was impressed last year when I saw them play at Newman, the way they got up and down the floor. They really moved the ball, and I'm assuming that pace continues this season. CWC East, still undefeated. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, 17-0 overall, 10-0 in the conference. Bondwell hanging around 10-1 in the league, 16-4 overall. Wyowega Fremont, 6-5 in conference. Menominee Nation, 5-6. Amherst, 4-6. Iola and Shiocton both 3-8. Manawa 2-9. Whitburn, this rolls. Thursday beat Shiocton 65-25. Big night for Milena Granquist. 15 points, 18 boards. Rory Selvison 14. And then non-conference game. We kind of touched on this one last week. Played Pacelli on Monday. Whitburn defeated Pacelli 65-49. Granquist 26-11. Selvison 20. They just keep rolling. And for
The W against Pacelli's a good one. Pacelli beat Assumption a couple weeks ago, so you know that Pacelli, and I think Pacelli's ranked, if I remember correctly, in the Division IV girls poll this week. So some good things going on with Wittenberg basketball. To stay undefeated at this point in the season isn't easy. Like I said, usually you have a letdown, and especially in the conference, they have Bondwell in there, and they're 10-0 right now. So some nice wins for them, and they continue to be just a force in that Division III.
CWC North, Gresham 4-1, Marion Tigern 3-2, Northland Lutheran 1-2, Boulder 0-3, and Northland fell to Iola in a non-conference game last night, 72-35. So in that 4-team league, not much to say.
No, I mean they're 1-2 right now in conference. I think Marion Tigerton is right behind them at 1 or 20. They're either tied with them or right behind them. So I think they play Marion Tigerton Thursday. So we'll see how that conference plays out. But like you said, really small conference, not a lot there.
Hockey. We got a couple of Wisconsin Valley Conference teams ranked. Stevens Point still undefeated, 20-0 on the campaign, 8-0 in the conference. Thursday they beat DC Everest 7-1. Very impressive win. Jackson Schrader 4 goals. Spash outshoots DCE 69-15. Thomas Passano scored for Everest. Congratulations to Thomas Passano. He now holds the school record for goals in a career. 62 saves for Griffin Bunnell. Wausau West, ranked number 5 in the state in Division I. They beat New Richmond, the number 6 ranked team, 6-4 on the road Saturday. A game that we had right here on WXCO. Cooper DePoit and Jake Hain, 2 goals each. 35 saves for Julian Scalcucci. And last night, the Warriors defeated East Merrill United 10-2. 4 different Warriors had 2 goals each. Big one tomorrow night. I know Jeff will be tuned in right here on 98.9 WXCO. Wausau West against DC Everest. Warriors 6-2 in conference. Everest 6-3. Final game before the seeding as well. Coming up this weekend. We're going to get some brackets. First time this weekend it's hockey brackets. Next weekend, girls basketball brackets. Boys basketball brackets after that. So exciting time. Coming up in the next week in terms of high school hockey. Wausau West plays at home on Monday and Tuesday against Eau Claire North on Monday. Wisconsin Rapids on Tuesday. Both games right here on WXCO. Also, a good week for Mosinee in the GNC. They defeated Rhinelander Friday 5-0. They beat Medford 7-0 Tuesday. They are continuing in terms of the Great Northern Conference tournament, and they will see what their Division II bracket looks like on Sunday. And girls hockey. Storm now 18-3, number 2 ranked in the state. They shut out the Madison Metro Lynx 6-0 Saturday. And this Saturday, number 2 Storm, number 3 ranked Superior, and in all likelihood, number 1 seed on the line. And that's significant because the 2, 3, and 4 ranked teams in the state in girls hockey in the same bracket. Hayward looks like they'll be the number 3 seed. They're the number 4 ranked team. The winner of Storm and Superior get a number 1 seed. They don't have to play the 4th ranked team in the state in a sectional semifinal. Much easier sectional semifinal, so significant game. Saturday, 1:50 airtime, which I know Jeff will be tuned into right here on 98.9 WXCO.
Do you think, let me ask you that, with all the rankings that you just rattled off with some of these teams and how hard it is, like, you just take the Storm and even West boys hockey as they challenge themselves where they go all over the place. Are the way the playoff bracket, we talk about this and you always say the playoff brackets, you'd like to see a couple more teams in the division. Was for hockey as well as basketball. Do you feel right now, from what you've seen, what you know about hockey, are the playoff brackets fair?
Well, it's not fair because of the way it's split between Division I and Division II. Because you have 60-plus teams in Division I, 4 teams go to state, and you have 32 teams in Division II, and 4 teams go to state. That's not fair, bottom line. And a lot of really good teams. The Wausau West bracket's going to be a massive bracket. Stevens Point, Wausau West, New Richmond, Eau Claire Memorial, Hudson, Superior. Great hockey programs. 1 team goes to state. Other part of the state, you got St. Mary Springs. You got Notre Dame Academy. You got, really good hockey teams. Division I is loaded. And then you have in Division II, and taking nothing away, but you have the Great Northern Conference tournament going on. Well, all the teams in the Great Northern but one are in the same bracket. They're going to do it again in the playoffs.
Right.
Again, it's
not aligned right.
It's not right.
Not fair with the numbers.
No, it's not. Bottom line.
Gotcha.
We're going to take a 1-minute break and preview the basketball action coming up this week here on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, it's a big one in Wisconsin Valley Conference hockey as the Wausau West Warriors play host to the DC Everest Evergreen. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Wausau West Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing, and the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club. It's Wausau West hosting DC Everest in high school hockey Thursday night, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 on your home for Wausau West Sports, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. Let's look ahead. Let's start with the girls. Wisconsin Valley Conference. The big one is Tuesday. Marshfield and Stevens Point. Stevens Point wins it. They win the conference.
Bottom line is you want to finish the job. Spash has earned it. I think they've had a little bit better success in their non-conference games. But, again, it's always been a rivalry between those two teams.
And Marshfield's been playing better.
Yes, they are. To work themselves up to that 7-1 record in the conference. Like a couple, couple significant wins with Bangor and Baraboo lately. And it'll be a heated game. I see Spash pulling it out, though, the way they're playing.
And in terms of the other girls, GNC, I don't see any of the top matchups right now. I think, especially with Lakeland and Mosinee already playing twice, Lakeland is in good shape.
Yeah, unless somebody, stubs their toe, teams are just going to look to finish as strong as they can and solidify their spots. It'd be interesting to see if we ever find if Clark comes back early or what the extent of her injury is, because that could make a little bit of a different run with, Ryan Landers just sitting a game back on Mosinee, but it's going to take a little bit of work to get that back. So, yeah, no significant games in the GNC that I see are going to jockey any position.
Merowith South, Stratford and Marathon Thursday. I think that's a big one. And Marathon Assumption Tuesday. Marathon will be tested. 15-3, but I think this will be their toughest regular season week of the year.
Right. I think it's going to be tough to beat Assumption. I've talked to Coach Snyder a couple times because our sons are in the same basketball, both in 8th grade basketball, and we've played each other a number of times. And he just says Assumption's a real deal. Tough to play against them on what they're able to do and what they're able to accomplish. I think, but for Marathon, it'd be nice to kind of make it a little interesting where, you can, with a win for Marathon against Stratford, they're right back in that second place there. They slide back up to a 9-3 mark and would drop Stratford to a 9-3 mark. So you get to tie that out with Auburndale, depending on if Auburndale stays where they're at.
Looking to the CWC East, Wittenberg-Burnham, interesting. They play Amherst twice. They play them Thursday and Tuesday. That's odd.
Those games are never. If you do really well in the first one, you get nervous for the second one because you did so well, and you're fearful if your team going to finish the job, get overconfident. And if you struggle, you're like, oh, we got to play them again, and we got to play. I don't know what the realm is to go. Obviously, you got two teams really close. Coaches aren't probably going to change a lot up, but it'll be interesting to see how they get through those two games being so tight together against the same opponent.
Let's jump to the boys. Because time flies when we're having fun. Wisconsin Valley Conference. Weston Everest on Friday, big game. I think Everest is a team that is under-repped right now in terms of record.
Yep. And Everest is on the rise. They all know the players that can put the ball in the basket for them. Again, like Griffin Lange said, it's one of his favorite teams to play. It's just it's another rivalry of in-city teams going against each other. You always talk about it's not the easiest place for other teams to go play in the Everest Fieldhouse, but I think a significant game for West to hold that spot to keep on tabs as best they can with Marshfield at the top of that conference.
Easton Spash on Monday.
Again, every team from now on, I don't think they haven't seen East has not seen Spash other than on tape with Aui, so that presents a different dynamic. But something, East outstanding conference overall record at 14-3, and they got guys that can put the ball in the basket and they can do their damage. East can. I think that's going to be a fun one, good war to have, and for East, I'd be. A little bit tougher because you got to go over there. But I still think a game that's of significance where those two teams lie and to get back up close to West in that second place spot.
Great Northern Conference. Mosinee will try to bounce back from their loss to Everest at Antigo on Friday. Antigo's a better team this year. You got Pines coming to Mosinee on Tuesday. What jumps out in the GNC?
I think Mosinee's going to handle those two games between Antigo and Pines, even though we talk about Pines kind of being a sleeper, so to speak. You just never know.
They haven't really jumped up against some of these teams yet, have they?
They're kind of, you just don't know what you're going to get out of them.
They won the games they're supposed to win. They haven't really won the games they have.
They're 4-4 marks. So I think Mosinee's going to own those games. Medford also has Antigo too, so I think that's going to be another game where Medford can stay at pace. And not much jumping out on those games. One of the ones I did want to mention out of the Valley was I think the West going over to Wittenberg on Tuesday.
I was going to say that for the CWC.
Sorry, I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
No. Say it. We brought it up.
Yeah, I think that's one of those fun ones.
Yes.
You've got, Rogowski's a prolific scorer. He can fill it up. They've obviously been playing well. They're top of that conference. And I like the dynamics and styles because West's offense has come around this year. You can see by their scores they're filling it up, and they're doing a much better job of consistently putting the ball in the basket on that and with different guys. And match that with their tough defense. I just think that makes for a fun matchup out of conference on Tuesday.
Merrillwood Conference has a lot of crossovers coming up Friday. And obviously those are important, especially in the South where there's a battle. You are stuffed up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get that close to the mic. Go ahead.
But no, a lot of crossovers, and for the South teams, you got to make sure you hold serve.
Yeah, and you got to take care of some of those teams that are at the top of that other end of the conference. So, Auburndale doesn't want to go up to Prentice and stub their toe on Friday.
All the South teams go on the road.
Yeah. So they're playing in these other teams' gyms. Newman's got to go to Rib Lake, which isn't an easy task. Rib Lake doesn't want to stub their toe against Newman because they want to hold the top spot in that conference, even though they got a three game lead against Phillips.
And frankly, right? Newman and Rib Lake could be a playoff preview.
Yes, definitely. So I think with the Edgar Phillips one could be a fun matchup. Always a physical rivalry there, and for. Just looking, I do like Marathon's going to go play Pacelli on Tuesday. I think that'll be an interesting non-conference matchup because Pacelli's been solid in their conference, and you know what Marathon brings to the table. So, and they're going to go do it on the road. So that's always interesting when you got to go into somebody else's gym and duke that one out.
CWC East, we mentioned Whitburn against West. They traveled to Amherst on Friday. Bonduel still looking to stay perfect. They are home against Shiocton on Friday. I don't think Shiocton has much of a shot in that one, but
no. And for Wittenberg, unless I have the schedule, correct me if I'm wrong, they're at Edgar on Monday.
Yes, you're
also,
right. You're right.
I think that'll be
interesting back to back.
Yeah, I guess I keep saying the word interesting, but they are. I like these non-conference little matchups between these different conference, sometimes different divisions, and I think it all bodes well, and for Wittenberg, I want to see their offensive output. I've watched my team shoot when I used to coach in the Edgar gym, and I've shot there myself when I've played adult open gyms. It isn't an easy place to shoot, so we'll see if that offensive output can stay up in that gym.
And CWC North has Northern Lutheran home against Marion Friday, and then they have a sort of a area battle with Faith Christian on Tuesday.
And I think they're going to, obviously, I think Marion's at the bottom of that conference, so Northern Lutheran should serve on that one, but always interesting to see Faith Christian and what they're trying to develop and get more games, get WIA affiliation, playoff contention and all that stuff. So it's kind of fun watching these schools work from the ground up.
45 seconds. Final thoughts.
Just to see what we go down the stretch. We still have a couple interesting conference games here or there. See how the Valley plays out. See who stays strong in the Merriwood on those things. And I think we're getting in the mix of things where playoff implications are pretty heavy, and you got to finish out the conference schedule.
And starting next week, we'll have brackets.
Yeah.
Brackets are coming. We'll
Too
look forward to
fast.
that. Thanks to our guests, Kurt Schmidt of Stratford and Griffin Lange of Wausau West. Thanks to you. Let's get better here. Let's get to 100%.
Well, at least we shouldn't get any sicker. It's all in this room.
I know, right?
Feels like it.
We'll be back next week. Wednesday night, Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on WXCO.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.